So I'm a member of the Junior League of Dallas, and as you may know, that's an organization of incredible women who donate their time and volunteer to make this community a better place in which to live. But I have a theory about junior leagues. I think there are major leaguers, and I think there are minor leaguers. I was definitely, as an active, I was in the minor leagues. I went to my minimum number of meetings. I paid my dues. I sat on the back row, and I made a grocery list while I listened to the major leaguers up front talking about how, talking about how volunteerism can train you for the future, how your volunteer efforts, how your gifts can make a difference in the community. And I remember sitting on that back row thinking that has absolutely nothing to do with me. I'm just an ordinary volunteer. I have no particular gifts or skills that I could make a difference. So it might not surprise you that when it was time for me to go and sign up for my volunteer placement, that I started looking for the easy way out. I went through the brochure and I tried to find something that you didn't have to show up, or if you showed up there was little training, or with a little training you could probably wear your jeans, and I found it. And so I thought, okay, that's for me, and I was in a hurry to go sign up for it because I didn't want the other minor league girlfriends of mine to get there and fill up that placement. So I was on my way to sign up. This was before it was all online, and as I'm driving down Lover's Lane to Junior League headquarters, I realized that I had actually broken one of my little Junior League acrylic fingernails, right? So I want to do good in the community, but I feel like my nails should look nice while I'm doing it, right? So I whip into this salon on Lover's Lane, and as I'm sitting there waiting for the technician, a magazine sort of slides in my lap, and it said on the front, every 9 seconds in this country, a woman is assaulted. 1 out of every 4 women you pass in your community, in your faith community, in your grocery store, in your workplace, will know domestic violence. It said that more women will present to the emergency rooms of our area hospitals as a direct result of family violence than all of us who go as a result of rapes and car wrecks and muggings combined. I went on to read this article about a man and a woman. She was a lawyer, he was a dentist, and he beat her, ladies and gentlemen, he beat her with a tire tool because dinner was late. And I was offended. I did go ahead and get my nails done, but by the time I got to Junior League, I had forgotten all about the easy way out. Oh, by the way, just as a side note, if you want to make God laugh, look for the easy way out in life. It just doesn't work that way. Anyway, I forgot all about the easy way out, and I opened the book to violence intervention. I put my finger down on Genesis Women's Shelter. Now, I had never actually heard of Genesis, but that's where my finger went, so off I went. And when I got there, I thought somehow the women would look differently than I do. I didn't know what battered women look like me, but what I found was that battered women are tall and short and fat and thin and black and white and Hispanic. The only common thread I can find among all the thousands of women who have come to Genesis Women's Shelter is that they were in a relationship with an abusive partner. I thought somehow their children would not look like mine, but I found that they look like my children and they look like your children. What I also found was I had been given an incredible opportunity, and that opportunity was to make a difference. I was hired, I volunteered for 3 years. I was hired 3 years later as the director. Now, I am sure there are some folks who are still scratching their heads wondering, what was the board of directors thinking hiring the Tuesday morning volunteer? But be that as it may, for the last 25 years, I have worked to raise the role and status of women in this country. I have worked to end the leading cause of injury to women in the United States, domestic violence, this monster that feeds in the dark and behind closed doors. I know that there are men who are battered. There are men who are battered by women, by same-gender partners. But today we're going to talk about women, our mothers and our sisters and our daughters and our co-workers. Women who, because by our mere gender, we are at higher risk, 9 times higher risk of being hurt in our home than we are out on the street. We're going to talk about women who are assaulted by someone who says that it's her fault, by someone who tells her he loves her, by someone who tells the rest of us that it is is none of your business. You know, I'm not from abuse. I didn't know men beat their wives. 25 years ago, I didn't really even think about it. I didn't know that men beat their wives or that men and women hurt their children in their home and they grow up to look just like us. I certainly did not realize that at that time I was one of the lucky ones. So at places like Genesis, we're so blessed, but at places like Genesis, we rely on the support of the community. We answer our telephone, we open our doors, we are able to receive clients who, you know, run in the night from the abuse, but we do so with the generosity of the community. And so I'm always looking for new friends and new funds and donations, whether they are in kind or whether they are financial. So I want to tell you a story. I picked up the phone one day and this man said, "I'm very interested in your agency and I'd like to know more about it." And I thought, great. And so I go into what the life-saving critical response that we provide. How women and their children run in the night and end up at our front door, often with only the clothes on their back. I talked about our counseling and our case management and our daycare and our on-site school, our access to civil legal representation. And I just went on and on and on about how important this is, to whom this crime is perpetrated, against whom, and who does perpetrate this crime. And so this man, after I had gone on and on and on, this man had said, "Well, I would like to make a donation." Oh my gosh, some of my favorite words. I would like to make a donation. He said, "I have a pallet of canned goods." Okay, not as exciting as the donation that I had in my mind, but he said, "I have a pallet of canned goods." And I thought, well, you know, pallet of canned goods, that's still pretty great. We can use them in our kitchen where we make 40,000 meals every single year for our families. We can put them in food boxes and give them to our families at our non-residential counseling center or to families that stay in our transitional housing. And so he said, "Yeah, I'd like to make a donation, but a couple of things, I want to ask you something." He said, "Do battered women eat Spam?" Do battered women eat Spam? Now I'm thinking, mister, I don't even know what Spam is, okay? Seriously, I don't even know what Spam is. Now, I have since found out, ladies and gentlemen, that you can actually slice it and fry it and make it into a sandwich, but I think maybe that's a Texas thing. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that. But he asked me, "Do battered women eat Spam?" And so I'm thinking to myself, I don't know. I don't know. And I finally just said, you know, I guess some battered women do and some battered women don't. But what it made me realize is that we still don't get it. We still don't understand it. We don't, after all of these years, and not to mention that 20-minute conversation, that we still don't understand that not all battered women are alike. We are asking the easy questions like, do battered women eat Spam? As if somehow we find ourselves in an abusive relationship and all of a sudden we develop a taste for Spam, or that's what got us in that relationship in the first place, you know? I definitely think this man's heart was in the right place. I really do. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, it is about time. It is about time we started asking questions, not why did she just leave, but why did he do it? What kind of monster beats his wife? What kind of coward beats a woman? Who hits the mother of his children? We need to be asking questions like that. You know what else we need to be asking? How is it in this day and age that it took 40 women to step forward and accuse a comedian of premeditated, drug-facilitated date rape before we held him accountable? Tell me how it is that we had to see a video of an elevator assault before we were willing to hold accountable an athlete. Tell me how it is that in 2016, a football player can be nominated to the NFL Hall of Fame, but even if he wins, he can't come get it because he is serving time in prison for rape. How is it we don't care what he does off the field as long as he's a winner on the field? You tell me how it is in this country that we can be gaslighted into thinking that jokes and boasts of sexual assault are somehow merely words or somehow locker room talk or that it doesn't matter. I guarantee it matters, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. It absolutely does matter that if we're ever going to move that needle of zero tolerance, we are going to have to realize that we cannot leave it on the steps of City Hall or Genesis Women's Shelter or the Dallas Police Department, that each of us, every single one of us, are going to have to roll up our sleeves and do what we can with what we have. As TED women, as human beings, we have to commit to being part of this solution. I want to tell you a story that I love. It's about a woman who was walking down the riverside one day, and she looked out into the river and she realized something was splashing around, and she realized it was a baby. A baby pops up and another one pops up, drowning babies out in the middle of the river. So she dropped her purse and she kicked off her shoes and she swam out there and she grabbed those babies and she took as many as she could and brought them to the riverside and began to resuscitate them, tried to breathe life into them, tried to shelter those babies. But she saw more and more in danger, and about that time another woman walked down the riverside, and the first woman said to her, "Thank God you're here. Thank God you're here. There are drowning babies. I'm trying to resuscitate them. I need your help." And the second woman, however, kicked off her shoes, swam out, but didn't come back. The first woman hollered out, "Bring me those babies. Let me shelter those children." And the second woman yelled back, "I'm going to stay out here in the river and teach babies how to swim." About that time, a third woman walked down the riverside, and the first woman said to her, "Thank God you're here. We need your help. There are babies drowning every day, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm trying to shelter, and she's out there teaching babies to swim in a violent river. I need your help." The third woman, however, didn't swim out into the water. She turned around and walked back up the river. And the first woman cried out, "How can you do this? If you know this is a problem, if you know this is going on, how can you turn your back?" And the third woman said, "I will not turn my back on this. I'm going to go upriver and see who throws babies in the water in the first place. Who throws babies in the water?" I'm not asking you today to be the director of Genesis Women's Shelter because I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm asking you to do what you can with what you have. And often our talents, we don't even know are something that can make a difference. I want to introduce you to someone. I want to introduce you to Sarah Nadel. She loves to fly. She's a pilot, has a license for a single-engine plane, and she wanted to make a difference with regards to domestic violence. And so she started a nonprofit organization called Families to Freedom. So when a family at Genesis is no longer safe in Dallas, she will come pick them up and literally fly them to freedom in another state. I want to introduce you to Ken Clark. Ken Clark owns an aquarium maintenance company, right? Every week, he volunteers, he donates his time to come to our counseling center and take care of our fish tank. He checks our pH balance, and he cleans out the tank, and he takes away the fish we forgot to feed from the last week. And you might not think that's a big deal, and Ken might not think that's a big deal, but I want to tell you to whom that is a big deal. I want to tell you about the 6-year-old little boy who comes to our counseling center. He has seen things that no child should ever see. He has been touched in a way that no child should ever be touched. He's too afraid to walk into a counseling room and shut the door with an adult, so he will go over to the toy box and he will dig out all the weapons, the plastic guns, the plastic knives. He will arm the therapist and he will arm himself. He will hold hand grenades in his hand. He will take a plastic breastplate and put on a helmet. And then he stands at the door, after everyone is armed to the hilt, he stands at the door of the therapy room, shakes his head and says, "This room is just too stuffy." You know the only place he feels safe in our counseling office? In our lobby, in our open air lobby, next to the fish tank, looking for Nemo. It absolutely does matter. I want to introduce you to Melissa De Leon. She's an esthetician in the Dallas area who helped my friend Maria Escamilla after her husband stabbed her 37 times. With her expertise, with her gifts that she has, Melissa actually skillfully erased 37 scars from Maria's face and from her body. She gave Maria the courage and the confidence to step out of the dark and into the light and be able to claim the abuse-free life that she so deserves. So again, I think every one of us can do what we can with what we have. And I ask you today, what do you have that can make a difference? I ask you today, what's in your can of Spam? In your can of Spam, do you have an understanding of the issue? In your can of Spam, do you have the knowledge and the resources to help a friend when she's in trouble? In your can of Spam, do you have a fire to help end this epidemic of violence against women and children? I sure hope you do. President George Herbert Walker Bush once said that points of light are the soul of America. They are ordinary people who reach out to those in need and giving help and hope and opportunity and care. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with that very hope and the clarity of my passion that I will continue to help create a community, to help create a nation that realizes that peace on earth begins at home. Thank you.